Okay, so we're
This
now recording.
is this Zoom call secure? Because I'm hearing
I don't. What is going on with Zoom?
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of Zoom, and every day I wake up and there's some new vulnerability that people are really upset
exactly.
about.
I heard that the Zoom team has now they just posted that they've stopped all new features and they're just focusing on security for the next 2 weeks.
Oh
So
man.
Uh-oh.
Yes, that's never the blog post you want to be reading. Okay.
Stop all development.
yes, exactly.
All right, we'll go through. Feel free to come in, folks, if you want to just drop in your own. But we have Beth here. We have Anrad here. Tom. Somya. Ahmed. Satish. And Zibyanek. Great. Good showing. Let's go ahead and we can just start with the agenda. So we only have these every 2 weeks now. So this first one is actually really cool. Tom, I'll let you kind of share this, or actually, no, we'll go around really quick before we go to the agenda, and we can just do a quick kind of less intro. I think we've all been on the call before, but just a quick kind of recap if there's any items you do want to cover in this call that maybe aren't already on the agenda. So I'll start. I'm Jeff. For those of you who may be watching the recording, I guess who've never been to a stand-up, I don't have any big updates. The only one is we do have a Microsoft blog scheduled to go out on Monday that we finally got kind of like blocked away. I need to still write the content for it because there's a blog that we did post, but I'm going to link to the blog that we did post. It took a little bit longer to get the blog set up. So that's the only item that I have, is that I'll be helping amplify that blog on the Microsoft open source blog on Monday. Other than that, I've spent a lot of my time doing non-KEDA things, unfortunately. So I don't have a
Jeff, is the blog going to be about amplifying the fact that now KEDA is part of CNCF? Is that
exactly that? Yep. And then it will link to the blog post that Tom might show in a second that we posted on our brand new site.
Cool.
So nice. Anrad, you can go next though. I don't know if you have any updates from your side.
No, it is the same thing. It's been with all the just trying to adapt to the new normal, and there's so many things going on.
Yep.
And just for Tom and Zibnik, we are also, as you can imagine, like in Azure, we are dealing with a lot of, in a good way, a lot of increased usage because of so there's lots of stress at different levels happening. Yeah. So.
Great.
Yeah. Good.
Tom,
sorry, don't have anything.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so last stand-up, we filed a request with the CNCF to do a website revamp, and as of, I think, yesterday, that's now merged.
Oh, nice.
So
awesome.
I think it's a really step up.
Step up. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and as part of that effort, we also now have a blog. And my follow-up action from the previous stand-up was to move mine to Google Docs so it could be reviewed, and now it's basically this. I used the date of, when did I add it? Tuesday, so 31st of March.
Yep.
I think that's okay, unless you guys think that we should move it back in the past.
Oh, I think that's great. I think that's really good. And I have an action item too, because when I saw this blog, I probably just need to share out, I don't know what the best way to share it out is, but credentials to like Buffer, so that if any maintainers want to post or schedule a tweet off of the KEDA account, that they can. I'm more than happy to do it if people ping me and they're like, hey, do it. But I also, to help try to amplify that too. So, but this is great, Tom. Honestly, the doing the work with the CNCF design team.
I didn't do anything. I just filed the request.
That alone, you knew it was an option. I didn't even know that we had an option to say, can we get design resource? But then getting the blog out. So that was a great one.
So okay. CNCF actually has resources to help out with blog, like website design and stuff like that, is it?
So I will post a link in the chat. And it's a GitHub repo called CNCF Service Desk, and there it lists what it gives to all of the projects. And I'm actually now looking because Jeff mentioned sharing secrets, and one of the tools they have is LastPass. So maybe we should request to have that for the team and share it like that.
Yep, that's a great idea. That's a even better way than me sending passwords and hoping that everyone keeps them secure.
And another one they added this week was Snick. I don't know if you guys know Snick, but
I
they
do know
do
Snick. I've worked with them.
container image scanning. So maybe that's also one we can add.
Oh, nice.
If we're bored someday.
We have worked with them in the Azure Functions context, right?
Right. Yes, Snick is. They have some Azure Functions capabilities to scan deployments.
Yeah, they're very nice.
They're a great company. Sweet. Soumya, do you have anything you want to share today? It's great to see you on the call.
Yep. Hey guys. So first time I'm joining the KEDA community call. I'm working in Microsoft as a CSA. We have a couple of POCs going on with a couple of large customers, and I'm having some issues with KEDA, especially for job scaling. So I thought that we'll join this call and get your advice on the issues. And it is a blocker for us, so that's the reason I'm joining this call
Great.
today.
Awesome. I just added it to the agenda. We'll grab it. We might get there pretty soon, but we'll pop to it before we sign off for sure, even if we go a little bit over.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining, Soumya. Ahmed, anything from your side? I saw you've been active on a few PRs and such.
No, nothing really from my side. I tried taking a look at PRs when I had the time.
Yep.
It's been busy. Yeah.
Great. Satish.
Hey, hi Jeff.
Hey.
So from the KEDA side, actually, right now, one thing I'm doing is to use the KEDA to scale the functions when we do our project, right, for the Kubernetes, the app services. That part I'm trying to test out. Other than that, I don't have anything specific for the KEDA.
Great. Sounds good. Yep. Feel free to jump in. Good to have you. Zibyanek, I know you've been busy, and I even see a few agenda items here. I don't know if you want to, since you're the last attendee that I need to check, I don't know if you even just want to jump into some of your updates so we can start some discussion or updates there.
Yes, we can jump right into the agenda.
Great. And Daniel, this was Daniel's item, right? Who I don't see on the call right now, the path to committer maintainer. I can kind of flag what he was interested in. We can have a short discussion, and then we'll move to V2 shortly. Did anyone else besides Daniel put this one? I've got the cameras over here. That's why I keep looking over here. Okay, I think that was Daniel. So there was a question, Daniel, if you know, he's been pretty involved from astronomer.io. He added this agenda item, which was, Tom actually did a great job giving some thought into a doc here around governance. And in the doc, we talk about project maintainers and how a maintainer must remain active and stay responsive, and that we can add new maintainers by the maintainers voting. And I think Daniel's question was, he's really just willing to help, but I think it's a good question to answer. I just want to get everyone's quick thoughts quickly is, if someone is interested in being a maintainer, what's the process they should follow? And do we have any thoughts around how many maintainers we want to have at once? I don't know if we should say like, hey, create a GitHub issue and say that you're interested in helping as a maintainer and maybe kind of give a reason of why. Maybe we only want to have, I mean, I don't know what the list is right now. I would guess 4 or 5. 5, like, I don't know if we want to shoot for 5 or less. So I'll just stop there and see if anyone has any thoughts on what we should do if folks are interested in volunteering to be a maintainer.
From the number perspective, just curious if CNCF has some kind of, or other projects.
Yes, I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. I don't know if anyone else, like, I don't know if I looked at like even a big project like Helm, how many maintainers they have at one time.
I think it's typically kind of small. So my suggestion would actually be around 6 or so.
I guess that the odd number of maintainers is good.
It's probably good, yeah, for voting.
True, actually.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Good point.
So from to break for voting.
Okay. Well, we don't have to spend too much time on it today. Maybe I can take an action item to create a GitHub issue around this for more discussion, but it sounds like we want to try to keep an odd number. I think 5 is probably great. 7 might be a little bit much. But at least folks who are interested can create an issue, and then we can kind of chat about it on a by need basis. So at least then we kind of have the answer to someone who's like, hey, I'm interested in being a maintainer. We could say, look, we kind of want to target 5, blah, blah, blah. If you're interested, create an issue and we can talk about it in a stand-up. So, okay, sweet. Let me add that as an action item really quick. Jeff, whoa, my keys were on the wrong spot. Jeff, to create issue for maintainer onboarding process. My keys are so clicky. All right, V2, Zibianek, this is your, oh, sorry, go for it.
I presume you'll add that to the, what was it, the maintainers or the governance documentation then, or?
Yeah, my initial thinking was to create an issue that we would kind of close on this discussion and then we could add it, but I could go straight to the PR for the governance one. And at least like we could say we at least know we want to have it be an odd number, and then maybe I'll go straight for the PR. We might as well. We'll go for the PR. We can have discussion on the PR and decide from there. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Okay, 2.0 Zibianek. I think this is your time to shine.
All right. So I was thinking about the possibilities that we can extend KEDA, about like the features we can add. So as you remember, we were talking with the Knative guys about the duck typing concept. So I was looking at it and I have found another solution. So basically the motivation behind it is that at the moment we can scale just deployments and jobs. And with, I was trying to find a way how to scale just like more resources, like different ones. So stateful sets and some custom resources. So the first attempt is the duck type. Basically duck typing is let's say, because Go code doesn't have like generics and all this stuff. So duck typing concept is about that you have like a shape of an object, and then you are trying to, and if you have another resource, you are trying to guess if that resource fulfill all the requirements by the object. So let's say we will have like some KEDA scalable thing, whatever, like the duck type, and it specifies, okay, if your resource wants to scale, it should have, for example, in the spec field, it should have replicas and it should have another fields. So this way we can define the duck type, and then if anybody has like some resource and he like basically fulfill all the needs, so he has like the spec, in the spec he has replicas and the other fields necessary that are defined in the duck type. This way you can handle these resources basically generically. This has some advantages and some disadvantages, because I was looking at how the scaling is happening in the Kubernetes space. So basically you can have multiple fields. You can have like the spec replicas. You can have the replicas hidden somewhere inside your spec in another field. So the duck type thing wasn't the best. I was like the best approach, because the other thing is that in Kubernetes, if you want to handle resources, you need to specify the RBAC, which is basically the roles and permissions for your operator, for KEDA operator, to be able to let's say handle these resources. So for example, if we at the moment want to scale deployments, we need to add permission to. If we want to scale some resource that at the moment we don't know the resource, what was the name, it was the kind, was the API version, etc. It's a little bit difficult. So you need to let's say do a hex with some annotations, etc. So then I have found out that there is basically in Kubernetes there is like a scale sub-resource, which is basically a standard way how to scale resources. So at the moment, deployment has implemented this scale sub-resource, stateful set has this scale sub-resource, and if you have your custom resource and implement this scale sub-resource, which is basically an endpoint, which is basically handling the scaling, you can scale any resource you want. So I I move this direction, and even the RBAC, the permissions, etc., are much more easier because you can say in the RBAC file that you want to access scale sub-resource in every resource in the cluster. You can put like the asterisk over there, so you can have asterisk / scale. So even like the permissions thing is pretty much solved. So this is the proposal basically, that we can modify KEDA a little bit, that it will be able to basically to scale any resource that has this scale sub-resource defined, which is the other issue linked maybe in the 703.
Let me find it. Would it be in the, is it linked in the one 703 right here?
Yeah. So basically, what we have to do, we will have the scaled object as it is right now, and in the scale target ref field, we will have like this three other like parameters, basically the name, which is at the moment is just the deployment name, but we can put like the API version and kind in there. This would be optional. So if it is not specified, it will be like just the deployment. So if you have your custom resource, for example, the Argo rollout, which was the requested in some issue before, you just specify in the API version the API version of the Argo rollout, and the kind will be like the Argo rollout and the name. And it should be it.
I see.
So it's like a minor change in the spec, and it could be doable. There is one concern, handling the secrets, because at the moment we can basically get the secrets from the containers in the deployment. So in the old scaled object spec, we have the container name property that could be like full. So with this approach, we can do the same, but it will work just for the deployment stateful sets. It won't work for the custom resources, because the custom resource could have the container hidden somewhere. So we can do it this way. So basically, we can support like the handling the secrets as we do it now, just for deployments and stateful sets, which are the standard Kubernetes objects. And for the custom resource, if user wants to specify the secret, he will need to use the trigger authentication custom resource as we have it now. Or we can drop the support for the secrets in the deployments for V2 and just use the trigger authentication. It's up to our decision. I'm not sure what are the preferences over here.
Great, very that made a ton of sense. Any thoughts from folks on the call? Questions or alignment, agreement, concern?
In terms of consistency, I would say, regardless of what you're scaling, it should be the same experience.
Yeah, but I suppose that like the deployments would be like the 90% of any like objects that we are going to scale. So I'm not sure if users are like familiar with the concept we have right now, so they tend to expect the secrets in the deployment. I don't know. So
I think that's a good question. I'm not sure how many people use that as opposed to just specifying a trigger authentication option. Grabbing the secret from the deployment simplifies the scale object that you need to deploy if you kind of assume that everything matches. Like the secret I'm listening in the deployment are the same secrets that I need to scale on. At least that's how Azure Functions used to work. So that's why that was added initially. But it's a good point that Zdeněk is raising. I don't really know how useful that is for people or how easily it is to discover.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying that is that
I could add the support for the secrets in the containers, and we can drop it. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on this. I got your point, Tom, that we should have like the unified way, but I don't know, honestly.
It's all the same to me. I don't really have a strong opinion on it.
Yeah, my only thought, like I do, and it might not be as big of a deal anymore, but my main, like even when we were going to 1.0, my main concern was for someone just getting started with KEDA, the ability for them to get started very quickly with as minimal concepts as possible, I think is beneficial. And so if they are going down like what we think is the 80% happy path, if they can just be like, hey, I just have to, like, I'm already mounting a secret on, I'm already doing these things. All I have to do is add this one more CRD for scaled object. That sounds nice to me. So that's why I kind of like the getting started hello world inline secrets, but I don't know how painful it would be if we're just like, look, just do scaled object plus trigger authentication. And then it's consistent for every type, even if you're in the 20%, not the 80%. So that's my only thought is would it be too much concepts for people just getting started if we made them wrestle around trigger authentication from the get-go?
Let's keep it around then, because it's less breaking as well. If we see a need, then we can still get rid of it.
Yeah. With that, maybe we can think about like other name of the property, because container name is like somehow misleading, because people could expect that basically we are scaling that container, and it's not, it should be a different name from my point of view. It should be like, I don't know, environment source container or something like that, because we are not scaling that container. We are just grabbing the secrets and the environment variables from that container. So if we are going to add that into the new spec, we should probably find a better name.
Yep. That's great, though. Honestly, great investigation. I think where you landed, I like this idea, this scaled object that I'm looking at here. The flexibility to do this looks really awesome.
But doesn't that involve a security risk? Meaning, if I scale container XYZ, but I want to get the secrets from container ABC, or am I understanding it wrong?
No, like the point is different, because if like the container name, it like, or the KEDA is using it for because if you have deployment, you can have multiple containers in one deployment. But if you scale the deployment, you always scale all like containers. You can't scale just one container.
Okay, so you will just have a look inside that deployment. Okay, I thought you were going to.
Yeah, no. It's the same. Okay. Yes, yeah. So I was just thinking about remaining a property, but I wasn't able to find a like proper name.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the one, basically the one proposal, and the relevant proposal is basically the scaled object, or like scaling jobs. So we can use the same approach. So basically use the scaled object as a custom resource and just reference the job directly in the scale target ref. So we will have just one field. So instead of typing deployment and kind whatever, we'll just put the job in there. We can do that, or we can introduce a new custom resource for scaling the jobs, because I'm not expert on the jobs or on the scaling, but I suppose there were some requests that the job requires a little bit different options than the standard deployment. So maybe Tom.
That's why I opened this issue, because I saw different expectations based on what they're trying to do. Because with the scaled, that's why I introduced two different names. Let's call it scaled deployment or stateful set or whatever. It's typically a daemon constantly running. And as the metric goes up, let's say, they want to add more of those instances. While with a job, they actually expect that if there is a new message, it will start a new job who will only process that one message. But we have only one concept of a scaled object. So actually we're mixing two scaling approaches into one CRD.
Yeah.
That's why I would prefer to split them so that it's clear what the scaling approach is. If that makes sense at all.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so if I'm understanding kind of what's being discussed right now is, we could do what I'm showing on the screen right now and just have a scaled object, and we could let you say the kind is job and the API version is whatever the API version for job is. And we could then start doing exactly what we do for jobs today, which is like, hey, for every queue message, you create a job and you have like this buffer of jobs. Like we could just shove it in, which is more or less what we're doing today. But I think Tom's concern, which is a good one, is those two behaviors between scaling a job and scaling a deployment specifically are very different. Like a deployment is looking at the count and trying to feed in how many instances are needed. The job is really like creating queue processors for every single message. And so the concern is if we cram them into the same CRD, is that more confusing to people? Because now they have to kind of, like, even in our docs, we've kind of made the approach that we break them apart, and that we have, you know, scaling jobs and scaling deployments because it's easier to reason that way. Should that be reflected in the CRD? And I think what that would turn into, because I still like this flexible version. I don't know if that means like stateful set or Argo deployments. Like, do those have to conform to either scaled deployment or scaled job? Or now are we in a spot where we might actually have multiple kinds too? I think it's a fair concern. And maybe, I don't know if we'll be able to close it on this one, or if we want to just keep having some proposals in GitHub, but it's good discussion. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts.
Yeah, maybe, just one more note. So if we introduce like the separate custom resource for the job, we can like put a different, you know, spec in the spec field if there are some, you know, needs for different behavior, different, you know, options, properties just for the jobs. I'm not sure if there are any requests for this, but this could be like, this should be taken in mind.
The reason why I added that issue is that we had a couple of support issues where people were confused about the outcome while it was actually working how it should, but it was not clear based on the type they were using.
And I think Mia is here to talk about maybe one more issue about jobs. So,
Yep. And I do wonder, because I don't know if anyone's thought about the stateful set one, and what even that means when you scale a stateful set. But I've assumed scaling a stateful set would be more or less the same kind of logic of scaling a deployment, where you're pulling in metrics and deciding. So maybe we don't call it scaled deployment and scaled job, but maybe it's like scaled metrics and scaled messages or something, where it's like one is doing something per event and the other one is doing a metric thing. And maybe then it makes more sense that, like, okay, you know, the stateful set thing is part of the metric scale. I don't know what the right names are, but I don't know.
So
I would keep like the scaled object for the generic one, basically for the one that we have right now. So we can have all the CRs or CR or custom resources that specifies the scale sub resource should be there, and then scaled job or something like that, or scaled worker for
I see. Okay.
Because you handle like the stateful set deployments or even like the custom resources, you handle the same way. Basically, you are getting the metrics and scale them. That's it. So that's my point.
Yeah, what I was thinking was using the same names like the open application model, where a job is a task basically, and deployments and stateful sets are daemons which are constantly running. And now that we're talking about this, I'm wondering if maybe the more flexible approach, which is not maintained by us, where they bring their own resource, why don't we separate that? But maybe it's because it's fully the same as a deployment today, or not.
Yes, it is. It's basically the benefit of it. So you have one custom resource, like the scaled object, or it could be like scaled resource or whatever. And you handle them the same way. You just basically scale them.
And do we call it scaled object or scaled resource?
I don't know. I would keep the scaled object, but I don't know.
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
I'm okay
That's
on
fine
that
for me.
Yeah, I'm either way. Like scaled object has a nice, like, it's kind of a carryover from V1. It's not necessarily the best noun, but it works. But I personally, and I'll pause in case anyone else has thoughts. I do like kind of this proposal that we're chewing around right now, which is we keep scaled object, which scales deployments. It could scale all this cool stuff, but we introduce a new kind, maybe called scaled task or scaled job or scaled worker, which is specific for doing these job type workloads, which for at least now, the only one I'm aware that it would scale would be jobs, but maybe something will pop up in the future that would fit that model as well, that could fit into that CRD kind.
Well, like an Azure function, doesn't that typically use the same approach? Like if I have a queue trigger?
No,
you
a Knative is closer to that one.
Okay.
But yeah, function does the scaled deployment or scaled object approach.
So if Knative is closely related, will that mean that they want to have, how is it called, custom resources as well?
No.
I don't know if
Yeah.
Knative, because Knative has its own autoscaler today.
Yeah, but somebody today commented
That was because of me. Basically, when I was thinking about this unified approach on scaling resources with the scale sub resource, I was talking to some guys in the Knative community, and they kind of like it. So
Cool.
they were thinking of reusing it for the eventing, for some like parts of the eventing. So scale some things over there. So they kind of like it. So that's the way why the guy like commented on that.
Great.
But doesn't that mean that it needs to work with jobs as well then? Or
No. It's basically if we define the scaled object that it is able to scale any custom resource with the scale sub resource. This is the thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
but
if they implement the scale sub resource on their resources they want to scale, they could easily plug KEDA in and scale the resources.
Yeah, but my question is more in terms of how they want to scale. So
I think it would be more a scaled deployment because they have a dispatch.
Yeah. It's not about the jobs; it's about the objects or the deployments. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think we have two very nice features.
Yep, great discussion. Okay, anyone else want to chime in on any of these V2 things we've been talking about or more before we move on to the next item and get to some of the other ones?
Maybe one more, if that's okay.
Go for it.
So we've seen a lot of, confusion is a big word, but there's no consistent way on how we name our configuration, certainly if it's contributed by new people. So that's why, and I didn't add the issue, but we want to propose to basically go through all the scalars and use the same name for the same things and also the same approach, like some call it address, some call it connection, while they are just the same.
I see.
And some people want to have a host and port separated. So we would like to see if that's interesting as well. Where if the connection
was the last one? What did you mean with the host?
So connection is typically the full host with the port, and someone to have the host and the port separately. For example, with Reddit,
sure.
there was now somebody asking. So we could use the approach, and actually that's how we added it now, I think, is that if the full address is specified, use that. If the host and the port are specified separately, use that as a fallback. If none are there, then we throw an exception.
I see.
Because we basically rely on the information being available on the container, so we can't really enforce it on everybody.
Okay, yep. So to kind of recap, the potentially creating some, I would imagine as part of this, we would create like, this is our recommended naming convention for metadata of scalars. And as part of that, it might even be refactoring ones that have already been merged in once we land on that right pattern. Yeah,
so we need to define I think we need a scalar requirements document, let's say, which lists the names that are available. Then we need to go through all the scalars and align all of them. And the beauty of a major change, we can just change them without all the backwards compatibility.
I see. And that's this one right here.
That's why I added this one already. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Any thoughts on this one?
I'm sort of a little bit, I just feel that it should be, I mean, you can have a recommendation, but every, like because everybody who wants to write their own scalar, and because every event source might have a different way of calling the same kind of, and so we should be more, it should be more closer to what the event source traditionally calls it or what it uses, rather than what we think we should do with respect to KEDA, right? That's just my thought, right? So if somebody is using Kafka or somebody is using then whatever the same concept is called in Kafka, it should be natural should be more closer to what it is called in that event source. That's just one thought. Instead of trying to standardize it across all the event sources, because if somebody's trying to scale something using Kafka, something has scale using Event Hub or whatever GCP, then they would assume I assume they would already know what these different properties are with respect to that scaler or that particular event source, what they're called, and if it is called something else, although it is standardized across KEDA, so it might be more confusing. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I sort of agree. At least that was initially the thought, that the names should match the scalar. So for Kafka, for example, if it's host, it might be a bit weird, but if it's a broker, people would know what that is. But I also understand the point of consistency, because somebody might be using like RabbitMQ and Kafka, and then they have things looking different between them. So I don't really know what the right answer is.
Yeah, maybe a better example is, what if I use Rabbit and Redis, and then maybe even Prometheus, and if all the same things are called differently. But an option might be that we have the standard ones, and we can also have, let's say, aliases, where you can, let's say, with the Kafka, for example, you can use connection, or you can also use host, or whatever the typical Kafka name is, so that we have the standard way. But if people want to use what's more natural to that scalar, they can also do that.
Yeah, I think that's
would that make sense or not? Or
it's a
would
good
that
compromise.
make it more confusing?
It's a good compromise. I'm just wondering, just to be very, how much of a issue is it really? Is it like, because I would imagine, yeah, I think if we feel that for a particular scalar, if we feel that those properties are not sort of the right first class properties for somebody who actually works with that particular event source, then we should definitely give feedback and say, hey, can we change it because this is more natural. But I don't know if it's so much of a problem that they are not standard across different scalars. I don't know if it is. That's just my 2 cents. That's just what I think.
But a good example is connection strings. Some call it connection string, some call it connection.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking, because I was actually, what I was clicking through is I tried to go through all the Azure ones, because I was like, oh, I wonder if we did that. But at least from the ones I clicked through briefly, it looks like all the Azure ones use connection. So at least there's consistency there, because that I agree with.
That's before I gave up.
Yeah. I feel it's fair if there are a couple of things like that, where it would not be scalar specific, right, or event source specific. Something like connection. Connection is a great example, and for that we can give suggestions and we can say that, hey, but I think just going overboard with this is probably not needed, and probably even detrimental.
So let's do this. So we'll just have a look at what's around, what's confusing, and then see if it's worth changing things.
Great. I think that's a good
next step.
Yep.
Okay. And now that, sorry, one thing pops in my head is the configuration one is now still flat. Were we going to make it more structured for V2, or what was the plan there again?
Yeah, it was brought up specifically in the concepts of Azure Monitor. This is what it ended up looking like in Azure Monitor. So I know initially Mel wanted to do like these would be in a sub list and these would be in a sub one. And I think so there'd be like 3 nested. This works today. I don't know if we've heard much other noise from other scalars. So I'm almost at the point where I don't know if I have enough reason to say we should go through and make it more structured. but I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know if we have justification for the work.
Okay.
Yeah, because the only one I've heard it from is Azure Monitor, and I could see it. There is a lot of metadata here, but I think most of our other ones are a lot better. So I think that might be the only scaler that would actually leverage it.
I think they could all benefit from it, but indeed the question is it worth it? Like the Huawei Cloud Eye one can benefit, Azure Monitor can benefit.
Yeah, CloudWatch would be another one.
Would need to check them all, but yeah, it's okay. I was just wondering what we decided there.
I think it's a valid one. I don't know if I would bump it to we need to make sure this is I don't think I would block V2 until somebody goes and does that work.
Now I remember no, that's not the breaking one. I was going to say version the triggers, because then you can change them easily later on, but that's for
sure.
It's an addition, so that's not breaking. Okay. Sorry.
Sweet. Nope, you're good. All right. So I think we're on track, and we might jump to job scaling for Soumya in a second, just to make sure he has time within the hour. But this is a good one. Move stand-up to an earlier time. So it bumped slightly with daylight savings, I believe. But it is kind of later than most other stand-ups. I don't know who created this or if anyone has any proposals, but I'm interested in discussion on this one.
Yeah, it was not brought by me. Basically, it's for people from Europe. So because at the moment there is like almost 8 p.m. So yeah. I understand that this thing is always tricky, across all the time zones and regions. So I was thinking about at least moving it like 60 minutes or 90 minutes earlier. It would help me a lot, for example, like personally. I'm not sure about the guys, but
this would help me as well, I think.
Okay, great.
It would help my wife.
I think I'm okay with 30 minutes at least. I'm okay with 9:30. That'll be 9:30 our time.
I'm fine with whatever.
I think Ahmed, you can just not sleep that night. So
yeah. The only one I'm aware, there's the serverless work group, which right now is primarily focused on event grid, or I'm sorry, cloud events. So I haven't had to join a bunch of those, but that is an hour before this one. But I don't know how many of you end up having to go to that or how much crossover we suspect, but that'd be the only risk if we move it just half hour or an hour earlier, is that we'd now be overlapping that stand up, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay if we overlap 1-to-1, and maybe we have to adjust things later on if that becomes a conflict. Any concerns with that one? So should we go 60 minutes earlier, like 9 a.m. Seattle time, or just 30, Anirudh and Ahmed? I'm up regardless because I've got a 4-year-old, but I don't want to speak for everyone on the call.
So the thing is that while we are in this coronavirus induced thing, then definitely I can do whatever time, at least personally. But once we go back to office, then I can't do 9. Because
that will never happen anymore. Don't worry.
Yeah, because then there's okay.
I have to drop off. I have to do drop off and stuff like that. I'm just I will not be able to come. There's no problem, I think.
Right.
So I can't come at 8:30 or 9. So I think the earliest I can go is 9:30. Of course, we can do the reverse also if it helps. Evenings is no problem. So that it's mornings. So it's mornings for you guys. So I don't know how morning works for you guys. But
morning for you guys is evening for you guys is our middle of the night.
It's minus 9 hours. So
got it. Yeah.
So plus 9 hours.
I think the only block of time I can't do is 8 o'clock to 9:30 in the mornings.
7 a.m. stand up.
What could go wrong?
Is it worth doing half hours, Zibyanek and Tom? Does that make enough of an impact, or is that not? And we might have to pause this one so we get to the other ones. But
correct.
I do get the one. Once life goes back to normal, 8 to 9:30 is a trickier time, I know, for many. But maybe we just have to do these without Anirudh sometimes too.
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
and we can give you all the work. That's fine.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what the best way to land on this one is, because I do want to close on it. Maybe it's over email. So maybe we'll just finalize it over email. I'd be interested.
And
Like
maybe
we could put a few options.
And you can already do a half an hour. It's okay.
Or I guess Slack might be better than email. Yeah.
Already start with that.
Okay. Are we cool with that if we keep this going, but we maybe solve it offline? Okay. Thanks. Good discussion though. I am very aware of this. Okay. Tom, I'm going to skip these for now if that's cool, so we can give Soumya some time because he's been very patient.
Yeah, sure.
Soumya, I'll let you go ahead, and if you want to share some of what you're seeing, and we'll see where we can help or at least provide some next steps.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so I'm working with the two different opportunities, primarily to leverage care scaling the jobs. So one is that the customer has 15,000 messages into a queue, and they need to process all of these messages in parallel. And each message will take up to 3 hours from 2 minutes. So we are planning to use KEDA for that scenario in Kubernetes. And the issues that we are facing is that the scaling. Well, even in my testing, I saw that if I push the messages into the queue, and if I send like 200 messages, but I'm seeing that KEDA is creating like 350 different jobs and pods. It's not really the number. So what's happening is that in customer scenario, they are creating an autoscaler in the Kubernetes cluster. So whenever it sees more jobs and pods, it unnecessarily spinning up more VMs. So it's a concern for them in terms of the cost. So what they're looking for is that we need to get exactly the same number of jobs and pods to be created in parallel with the help of KEDA. And so that way they can manage either using virtual kubelet or using the node autoscaler. And also they would like to see, can we also control the number of jobs can be created? Like for example, we have max replica count for deployment type scalar objects. But jobs, is there a way that we can control the number of parallel jobs as well? So these are the two issues. I was able to reproduce the same issue on my end. And I saw there is a two pull review request related to job is already in open state. So I don't know if it is hitting directly on, but it's similar. We are seeing that behavior. See, even my first testing I did with the parallelism as one and queue length as one. So I saw that each jobs are creating sequentially. Then to create in parallel, I tried queue length, like for example, 100. Then I'm seeing like a weird experience. So I want to get your expertise, suggestion and thoughts on that. What is the best way to configure the scalar object to get this parallelism with jobs?
Yeah, and if I understand right, just to see if I'm hearing, like you're dropping, let's say, 1,000 messages in a queue, and what you want to have happen is have some jobs spin up, but you want to be able to cap the number of jobs that will spin up to like 20. And what you're seeing right now is you drop the messages on the queue, and it's just going crazy. So you're getting like 350 jobs, which is causing like the cluster autoscaler to kick in and a bunch of other things. Is that a fair recap of what you're seeing in your testing?
Yeah, that is one issue. And from a customer's requirement perspective, they want to create like parallel jobs. Like if I have like 1,000 messages into the queue, they need to spin up 1,000 parallel to process these messages so that they can, because each job is taking up to 3 hours. So that is one of the reasons they thought that to go with a cloud based so they can process it in parallel. And they did a Azure batch. There everything is good, but they would like to see if they can leverage Kubernetes for the similar scenario.
Yeah, and I guess for the second problem, I think, and maybe others on the call got it. The 1,000 number in that case, will that always be static? Like, will it always be, always run up to 1,000 jobs in parallel? Or are you saying that number might change based on how many items are in the queue, and you really just want it to always spin up n number of jobs in parallel?
Yeah, it varies. And so it's a multi-tenant solution. Some customers, when they create a job, there will be maximum 15,000 messages. And at a minimum, there will be 1,000 messages for each job processing scenario. So the number of messages coming to the queue will vary customer to customer. So minimum is 1,000 messages and maximum it can go up to 15,000 messages. So for that 15,000 message scenario, they have to create 15,000 jobs in parallel to process all these messages with the help of KEDA.
I see.
Yeah, I'm a bit. So I'm just. I think just trying to get clarity here. It looks like uh, like I'm just trying to figure out somewhere which problem, because they almost seem, these two problems seem at odds to each other. I think at one point you said that you need that we are scaling out too much, and I think on the other side you're saying that we are not scaling out enough, so they are not being processed in parallel. So are do you want to solve so which one is it? Is it like we are not scaling enough, or we are scaling too much? Just, I think we are trying to sort of get clarity on what the exact scenario, or you want both and you want to control it. Like you
Yeah,
want to say that, so you want both the scenarios. You don't want, but you just want that knobs to be able to control that. Hey, in this case, hey, I don't want it to scale out, and in this case, I do want it to parallelize. Is that the question?
Yeah, the first scenario is that the main requirement is that they need to process this one in parallel. So that means if there are 1,000 messages, they want to see only 1,000 jobs to be created.
Okay,
but
so
with KEDA,
let's just stop here. Yeah. So, and what are you seeing? What are they seeing?
So for example, in my testing, when I send like a 200 messages, it is creating like a 347 jobs. So KEDA is spinning up.
Okay.
So we are expecting like a 200 jobs to be seen with the help of the scaler.
Got it. So you're saying that when you have n number of messages, you are seeing n plus some x jobs and not seeing exactly n jobs.
That's right. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone here has experience with, but from the outset, I think that this should be possible through flagging some of these knobs. And I think there's also some weird behavior in the OpenPR where like queue length, the number you set for queue length actually really impacts the number of jobs that get spun up in the metadata. So in short, I believe the behavior you're describing in that scenario, it should be doing what you're expecting. But if it's not, then maybe there's something wrong. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts where you're like, oh, actually, no.
Bug there in the counting or something, because I saw a couple of PRs talking about this, but I'm not too familiar with the job scaling. I think Steve, I forgot his last name, was the one that added it. I think the best course of action is for someone to take a look at it and see why. I can take that one. I can test the job scaling and see.
Did you create?
I've been planning to take a look at the existing PRs for job scaling, so maybe that'll be a good factor for it, a good forcing factor for it.
Do you have an issue for the? Oh, sorry, go for it, Sibianek.
Yeah, I was about to say the same. Basically, if you can create issues for both the issues you have, it will be great. So we can discuss both.
Yeah. So Swami, did you hear that? Just create issues for those in the GitHub repo.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, and generally, if you can give some kind of a sample app on a repro, then that will be awesome.
Yeah. And these things could be like basically taken in account for the V2 and for the scale jobs revamp, because I think that the job scaling is still a bit alpha from my point of view.
Yeah, sure.
All right, okay. So yeah, I saw like two issues in the open pull review request. There are two pull review requests similar to this particular issue. What we are seeing in the pull review request, it is still open. So any idea that when it may merge, because this is very time constrained to the customer, so we might need to go with a different route if it take time to stabilize the job scaler.
I'm trying to see.
Or the customer can help testing. It's also an option.
This is I'm opening the issue here. This is the one you're talking about. This, it's a different pull request. I'm trying to figure out the issues you mentioned. Yeah, you might just have to flag us. It's hard to say. I don't know. I haven't looked at these pull requests, so I can't give a definite answer. As Ahmed mentioned, he's planning to look at it. But if there's other hiccups here, it could delay these. But if you can at least even add, I'd be really curious to know, like, what are you doing when you're reproing? So you're dropping X number of messages in a queue. This is the scaled object that you're deploying with like every single value that you're using minus the secrets, obviously. Even if you add that to an existing issue, that would be fine. But if you can do that, it can help us accelerate. In general, the next scheduled release for KEDA is 2 weeks from this week. So best case scenario, that would be the earliest it would be in the Docker hub, but it's possible that it gets merged and you could use like the master branch to start POCing even earlier.
Okay, got it. Yep, thanks.
Great. Okay, we're at it. Oh, go for it.
We're releasing on the 14th, not this week.
Yeah, 2 week, the next.
Oh, okay. Because
April
somebody
16th.
was asking, and I was saying it will be this week.
Oh,
okay.
No, that's fine. That is right on, Rod. Is that what you're marking as well?
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
We were not planning to. Is there any sort of big changes or anything that is blocking for?
There was a new way to configure Redis, I think. Yeah, there was something else that people wanted, which I cannot remember. But I see.
If it's not blocking or it's not a big thing, then we'll just stick to that. So.
But I see a bigger ask on the Helm chart front, where people say, "Why do we have to wait?"
And that one, I think people can just, if they just do pull requests with the chart, they'll push right away. Like we don't have to wait for releases on Helm charts.
Yeah. But the question is, do we ask people to always do that and have a lot of increases, or do we more frequently do that?
Ahmed, any thoughts on that? I'm cool if people just update the existing package, and like I'm not going to approve a PR if it looks like a breaking change, and I'll be like, you need to do a new version. But if people just want to do a live update of the Helm chart and instantly release it, I'm cool with that. Ahmed, I don't know if you have any concerns.
Okay, then I would suggest to add it to the. Yeah, I'll add a PR template.
Sure. Yeah. If it says like run the README steps. Yeah. And people don't have to, but if they want it, then I'm more than happy if they're like, here's the updated chart.
Okay. And just so you know, I will reintroduce the README for the Helm charts when I find time, so that all the options are listed, so that people know what they can tweak and what it is for. Certainly for Helm Hub, that they know what's up.
Great. Okay, we're at the hour. There was one item we didn't get to. Tom, I'll let you make the call on this one if you want to squeeze it in. CLA bot on docs.
It was brought by me. Yeah.
Oh,
there is, yeah, the bot is still there in the docs repo.
Oh, is this the Microsoft open source bot?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'll flag them to make sure they pull that off.
And there's still a whole heap of Microsoft people in the organization. Do we keep them, or what's the plan
Microsoft
there?
people, or like the open source compliance?
Microsoft people, like Eduardo. I don't know who else. Sean.
If they're owners or maintainers, then we should weed them out. If they're just members, I don't think we gave them any permission. It was mostly when we were private, when we were a private org, we had to manually add everyone, but I don't think they have permissions to do anything. So we can if we want. I'm fine if we pull them out. I'm fine if we leave them. Okay, great. Another full hour. Anything else before we sign off? Anyone wants to make sure we get in while we're here in person? Very good.
Yes, one more thing. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Shall we now start sharing the blog post, or do we wait for the open source one?
I think go for it now, and we'll just amplify it again on Monday. So if you want to send me the text for the tweet, or you want to do a little password dance with me right now, and I'll give you credentials to the Twitter account. But I'm happy if we start promoting and making some noise on that one.
I'll send you a tweet.
Sounds good. All right. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk again in 2 weeks. If you need me before that, if you ping me on Slack on the KEDA channel in the Kubernetes group, I can help out, especially around like the scaled job thing, Somya, either on Teams or on Slack. Let me know if we need some help making that make progress.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks a ton, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.